we'll let the last of the audience get seated, not pointing anyone out. So are we live, Devin? I guess we're live. Welcome to the International Culinary Center. We are so happy to have a distinguished group of panelists here to discuss Chef's Move to Schools. There's a lot that we're going to pack into this hour here, so we're going to move very quickly. But I would absolutely like to thank everyone who's physically here, as well as all of you who are joining us online. This is the first in a series of National Chef's Move to Schools webinars. It's going to be focused primarily on getting the culinary community, getting chefs involved in schools. Those of you who are joining us from the school side, it's absolutely going to be constructive for you. And I would like to let you know, as we've been told, that there are going to be more webinars that are particularly tailored to your needs coming up. But this is really focused on how to bring chefs into schools and do the work that they do best. Our agenda, like I said, it's going to move quick. We're going to have Marissa Diswalt of the White House speak to us about where we are now in the Chef's Move to Schools program. We'll have Greg Silverman from Share Our Strength talk about the new school lunch guidelines. We're fortunate to have the chef of New York City School Food for the Department of Education feeding 850,000 kids a day. How many kids, Chef Jorge?
1,850,000.
Million, more, a couple of kids, including mine. And also joining us from the White House, Sam Cass is going to talk from the chef's perspective. As the advisor on nutrition to the White House, he's somebody who has been active from the inception of this. So with that, I will hand the mic over to Greg Silverman to talk to us. Pardon me, the coordination is wrong. Marissa, if you could introduce the program and talk a little bit about Chef's Move to School for our audience.
Thanks, Phil, and thank you all so much for having us. Thank you to the International Culinary Center. This is an incredible facility. We're so privileged to be here, and we're so privileged for your partnership in this effort. We appreciate the accommodation that you've made for today's webinar. The First Lady launched Chef's Move to Schools in May in 2010, and she had hundreds of chefs come to the South Lawn of the White House and call to action their expertise to join her in reversing the trend of childhood obesity, which has become an unfortunate and devastating epidemic. She made two very important points in her remarks. One was the fact that 1 in 3 children in America are obese or overweight. And for the first time in our nation's history, a generation of kids may have a shorter lifespan than their parents. The second point that she made, though, was equally important and just as potent, if you will. She reminded us that the role of food in our lives is incredibly critical. And she stood alongside many of the leaders who are joining us today, including our own White House chef, Sam Cass, who supported her in a vision to bring the expertise of the culinary community into school cafeterias to help kids learn and enjoy healthy choices. And that was the birth of Chef's Move to Schools. And since then, we've seen an incredible amount of success. Hundreds of chefs have raised their hands as volunteers across the country to champion this cause. Hundreds of schools have raised their hands in a welcome partnership to say that they're excited to transform the school cafeteria into a healthier eating environment for kids. And I'm really pleased to amplify the news of this year that the First Lady's challenge that she gave schools and chefs on that sunny day in May to increase the number of healthier U.S. schools across the country was reached this past summer with the help of many, many chefs across the country, schools, food service professionals, and administrations in school districts. We have now more than 4,000 schools who've been awarded healthier U.S. schools, thanks to the partnerships at the local level. And that call to partnership is happening at the national level too, with many thanks to the coalition members that currently support Chef's Move to Schools. You can see them on the slide here. We have more than a dozen partners who are part of a coalition that bring together expertises across the food world for the sake of our kids' health, to ensure that every child in America has the opportunity for a healthy adulthood and enact the First Lady's vision. This is an exciting, exciting day to finally have a conversation with participants across the country and hopefully with those who will join us in participating in the program in the future. So I just want to read one quote in the First Lady's own words to remind us of why we're all here today. In the end, as First Lady, this is not just a policy issue for me. This is a passion. This is my mission. I am determined to work with folks across the country to change the way a generation of kids thinks about food and nutrition. It's why we're all here. It's what we believe in. It's the cause that we're all partnering and collaborating toward. So very quickly, I'll just go through how you get involved with the program and what's been implemented to date that allows us to enact that vision. And the first step is that schools can partner with chefs. There's so many great ideas. You're going to hear today about some success stories about how they've worked. You're going to hear from staff throughout, and you can actually go to the Chefs Move to Schools website to hear more success stories if you're looking for ideas for how to implement this. But administrators, teachers, PTA, food nutrition staff, our school chefs are critical on-the-ground players in ensuring a healthier cafeteria environment, from cafeteria to classroom to home. And then chefs can come in and use their culinary creativity, the excitement and enthusiasm that they have around food to host classroom cooking demonstrations, to start cool school gardens, to coordinate health fairs, to get involved with other fun projects that really increase the enthusiasm of kids in making healthy eating choices. So we have a new website, chefsmovettoschools.org. It's where you can go and sign up. It's where you can find out who is looking for your match in your community, and we'll get a little bit more into that at the end of the webinar. But that's where we start, and that's where we're asking you to start and join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. And just to speak to us about the new nutrition guidelines, the Director of Educational Outreach for Share Our Strength and a member of the steering committee for Chefs Move to School, Greg Silverman. Before Greg speaks to you, I'd just like to also note to everybody online, if you are looking to have a question answered, there's an email address that you can see at the bottom of the screen. Shoot emails through to us, and we will be answering all the questions we can over the course of our question and answer period. Greg?
Thank you. Thanks, Phil. So, as we know, the school year, the beginning of the school year is an exciting time for kids. It's an exciting place, schools, for kids. At the same time, it's also an exciting time and an exciting place for chefs and school nutrition staff and everyone involved across the country, and especially in schools, who are trying to make kids' lives healthier. So, from kids going to the White House to our First Lady, going into the schools and classrooms to sort of how we promote the work through ChooseMyPlate.gov, we're trying to find lots of different ways to sort of engage kids, parents, staff members, chefs, everyone across the country. So obviously, with the school year, we have new kids in the classes, in the classrooms. It's a time of year when it's harvest time now, and we have new crops in the fields. There's new food guidelines as well. And personally, myself as a chef, I might know how to cook good food, but there's a lot more obviously happening when we think about school food and making healthy food for kids across the country. It's not simply as easy as cooking good food from the perspective of a chef. It's bringing everyone together to the table to make some change. And some of the things that we notice, like when we're thinking about making more change, some of the more changes side of things we look at are like, oh, my slides are mixed up, I'm sorry, is thinking through what we can also be doing, and it's thinking about more whole grains. It's also thinking about more fruits and vegetables. At the same time, it's about decreasing some things at the same time. So it's decreasing fat and sodium. It's also decreasing to fat and fat-free milk only. And you can go online, and on the Chefs Move to School webpage, there's lots of links to tools, curriculum, and these guidelines that you can find through the USDA.gov. So when we think about what's happening in schools, it's not just about rules and regulations. It's about a lot of amazing activities happening that our schools are promoting and pushing out across the country. And when we think about them, I mean, there's just so much happening across the country. From on the East Coast, we have in Virginia, near where I am in Washington, D.C., we have lots of things happening with farm to school and locally grown foods being used in the classrooms. We have chefs across the country. Every school we speak to is bringing up new recipes, making adjustments, and doing what they do best, which is being creative with the tools that they have and the resources that they have. We also have gardens happening right on school properties across the country. And then we have, an amazing simple thing, which is getting this food to kids in a salad bar format. So lots of different things are happening across the country. There's lots of different ways you can get involved through it, but the new guidelines are ways that we can sort of really amplify these sort of great resources that are happening across the country. When we sort of go to like some of the top line info, and we really, just to give people a little bit of basic info of the key items here, like starting in July of 2012, we talked about really, when it comes to fruits and vegetables, increasing the portions of that. In a sense, larger servings, offering more legumes, dark vegetables, red and orange vegetables, and pushing, again, more whole grains for the kids in the classrooms, and again, fat-free or 1% milk. And thinking through some of these sort of simple limits related to calories, portion size, sodium, and trans-unsaturated fats. So these could be considered complex issues for some of you, but this is where the folks in the schools have the knowledge and the expertise that can really, if you're a chef and you want to go to the schools, this isn't about you coming in and saying, I need to have all the expertise myself. This is about partnering up with the schools and letting them use their expertise and lending a helping hand where you could be best served. At the same time, we all know there's challenges. The regulations are complex. There's only limited equipment and staff in schools. Budgets are constantly tightening. And no one school cafeteria is the same as another one. So we're always trying to think how every school can best interact. And that's why it's really important to talk to the schools and engage with the school staff. At the same time, as a school staff, if a chef comes in, really start that conversation and really create a dialogue to make change. So I want to pass it on over to Phil, who's going to send us through some
Absolutely.
videos.
So, speaking to that change, the ACF has provided us with a couple of videos of a chef on the ground in the school that he's affected in Atlanta, Georgia. And for those of us in the audience here, you're going to see it up on the big screen, much like everyone watching on the web as well. So.
Hello, my name is Michael Deal. I'm the executive chef at East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta and the president of the ACF Greater Atlanta chapter. We're very excited in Atlanta to be part of the Chef's Move program. One of the schools we have adopted that I'm personally involved with is the Drew Charter Elementary School. We have K through 8th grade, and what's the most important thing to me about this project is I have the ability to expose on a monthly basis each individual grade fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, some of these children don't even see them, but when they do see them in the grocery store, what's paramount to me is the fact that they actually get to taste it. I do some fun, simple recipes that the kids can do when they get home from school. We've had great success to the point that after our first year of the Chef's Move program, Drew Charter put a salad bar in the school. We think that's the highlight of our first year. So no matter whether your chapter is big or small, pick a school, pick some kids, show them some good tasting stuff.
I am Lindsay Lazinski, and I work at Charles R. Drew Charter School in Atlanta, Georgia. And we have had the privilege of working with Chef Mike Deal from the East Lake Golf Club for 2 years through the Chef's Move to Schools program. He meets with a different grade level every month and does a lesson with them, showing them how to apply what they're learning in the classroom to choices that they make in restaurants and grocery stores. And really, the ultimate goal is to make sure those students are taking those lessons home to their families and making a difference in the home. One of the most effective lessons he did with the students, in my opinion, is when he showed them how to take leftovers that they bring home from a restaurant and turn it into a second nutritional, healthy meal that they can share with their families. And we've had students come back and say that they've tried the recipes and the lessons that he's taught them. So if I could give any advice to another school, it would be to figure out what your students need the most, whether it's portion control, reducing fat, reducing sugar, and give them lessons in that and good choices to make, because they will take those home and share those beyond just what they're learning in the school.
From lessons learned in schools in Atlanta, Georgia, to the lessons of New York City. We're fortunate to have with us today the executive chef of New York City's Department of Education, Chef Jorge Collazo, who, as I mentioned in the intro, feeds a lot of kids every day and is intimately aware of what we need to get into schools.
Thank you, Phil. I I just wanted to start out by saying that we are incredibly excited in New York City about chefs' moves to school, and also the new standards. Challenging, yes, but it's where we have been wanting to go for so long, and we're finally here. And like I said, it's challenging, but we're working it out, and it's exciting. And the menus are changing, so that's a good thing. As far as, I just wanted to speak a little bit about maybe the most effective ways for us to engage with chefs in the industry. Our door is completely open and to chefs in New York City or anywhere. And the issue is, it's not an issue, but it's just more has to do with communication. So how do you get, if you're a chef, how do you get to come into a school? The most effective way is to basically, in New York City, is to talk to me. That's really the first step. And the reason I say that is it's not a matter of just because I want you to talk to me. It's because by coming to me, or even across the country, going to the food service director that maybe be in charge of that district or that set of schools, or somebody in the, there still are boards of educations out there, not here, but there are. Go to the person that is going to be able to give you, as a chef, the orientation and the framework of what a school cafeteria is all about. It is a completely different world and universe than what chefs in hotels, restaurants, or anywhere may be accustomed to working in. So I would say that to have a really effective partnership, that's where it needs to start. And that way we can find out what works best for the chef or maybe one of his staffers. We have had occasions where we've had chefs come in and they have sent, maybe not them personally because they are so busy, but maybe a staff member, a sous chef or somebody like that. And what happens is we can start having a dialogue about what works best for the chef's schedule, what does that particular school need. In large urban districts like New York City, there are going to be there's going to be multiple neighborhoods that are going to require maybe more focused kind of interventions from a chef. And that way we could tailor that to the chef's ability to spend time in the school, but also to schools that are surrounding the restaurant or hotel or whatever the facility is. In New York City, there's obviously thousands and thousands of restaurants. There are schools in every neighborhood, in every borough, at every economic level, with every sort of facilities or infrastructure challenges or not. Some schools have amazing kitchens that would rival any hotel kitchen anywhere. At the same time, you might have a kitchen in a neighborhood where there's 2 people in there, they're feeding 1,000 elementary kids, and they're very limited in space, and they need that creativity of an understanding about how to plan their day, how to plan their mise en place, how to prepare themselves for new recipes and so forth, and how to move themselves forward into a different place. So there are every kind of environment that we could really use that help. And like I said, I think hopefully my contact information will be put up on the web somewhere. And I welcome all the chefs. Anybody that wants to get involved with us, we welcome that. But again, we need to have a little bit of a chat and a dialogue about different things before we start the work in the kitchen. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chef
Sure.
Jorge. And now we have the opportunity to hear from a chef in the White House who's also done a lot of work in schools. Sam Cass is going to talk about how chefs can contribute through the Chefs Move to Schools movement.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you for having us here, Jorge, Greg, everybody, Marissa. This is it's a great honor and a privilege, and we're excited about all the progress we've made to date. The chefs, myself, and the other chefs in the White House we've adopted a school just a few blocks away from the White House, Tubman Elementary, and have been there many times to work with the kids, and it's been a true joy. And I think for chefs, who are working hard every day, day in, day out in their kitchens, it becomes this great release to be able to really work with kids, and it sort of reminds us about all that's important. But I think the key is, and I want to build on something that Jorge said, is this is about a collaboration which is based on communication. And, you know, chefs, I think it's important for all of us to really understand what we're walking into. We are walking into, right now, a moment in time where there's a lot of change happening, a lot of really important change that's going on. And we're walking in to work with school chefs, you know, people who are doing the same work that we are, but they're doing it with incredibly little resource, not nearly enough respect that they deserve. They care deeply for the kids that they're serving. You know, every time I speak to school chefs around the country, they refer to the kids as their own kids. And in fact, oftentimes they're called, you know, grandma or different. They have funny names. The kids come up with funny names because that is the approach that so many school chefs take. And they're being called upon and are stepping up in the most amazing ways across the country to help safeguard and nourish our children. And in the school context, there's nothing more important. If our kids aren't getting not only nutritious food, but enough food, you know, they're not going to learn. And hunger is something that school chefs are facing every day, where it has thousands of kids that come into school every day who have not gotten the food that they needed. So these are tough circumstances that folks are working on. So I think the most important thing a chef can do is to start a dialogue and to understand how can we be most supportive to school chefs around the country. What are the gaps that we can help fill? And that's going to be different in every different school. Every school, even in New York City in one district, you know, every school is different. And they have different set of equipment, they have different set of challenges that they're going to face. So part of the question is, okay, how can we help? And now on the Chef Moves to Schools website, there is, and I'm going to go through some ideas of some things that are possible. There's a lot more resource on the website once you sign up that you can have access to all kinds of tools and tips that are going to help you be effective. But the question is, where do we fit in? So one area, it can be helping to create new menus and helping in that process of menu creation. And some schools and some school chefs will be very open and interested in needing that assistance, and others won't. And I think getting that feedback and guidance is important. But little tips can be quite helpful. And another model we've seen work very effectively in Orange County in Orlando, Florida, is chefs and the school district have partnered to work with students themselves to come up with an array of different options, which they then tested with the kids and worked on the dishes with the kids themselves. And once those dishes, and the kids got to choose which ones were going to go on the menu. And once that happened, those kids had ownership of those dishes and were telling their friends, oh, I helped make this. And they have been devouring those dishes ever since. So chefs can play a real role in helping to create a connection and a bridge to kids in this process. A chef in Washington, D.C., who adopted a school that had very limited kitchen equipment, so they weren't doing very much cooking, worked with the school chefs to, the first thing they did was a simple salad dressing. They hadn't really been doing any cooking. And they realized that once they made 3 salad dressings, and they tasted better, and they saved the school some money, which is always a good thing to do, right? Saving money is always good. And it was a very small thing, just some salad dressings. He came back the next month, and they were making their own pasta sauce, completely on their own. And so part of our role is to really help empower school chefs to take some chances and to help push the envelope a little bit. Another great thing that chefs can do is what you saw in that video is really tasting and sampling. This doesn't have to be wildly creative stuff. So many kids never have a chance to really taste these new fruits and vegetables. And if you've never tasted it, your willingness to try it is going to be limited. And so school chefs have limited staff, limited time. They're feeding sometimes thousands of kids in a matter of an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours. So the opportunity and resource they have to actually engage with the students and help in that educational process is quite limited. And this is an area where I think chefs can be incredibly impactful to helping create that energy and excitement around just trying a new food. So the first time they see it is not in the cafeteria line. They've become accustomed or at least open to that ahead of that. And I think helping to work with, in most schools, there's a teacher who's really passionate about these issues. Be it a science teacher, a physical education teacher, a history teacher, and how can we work with them to make their lessons more dynamic? So doing a cooking lesson based on a country that is being studied in geography class could be a really interesting way to get kids excited about a new kind of food, try new vegetables, but do it in a way that you're partnering with teachers who are really passionate about this issue, and how do we work to get them more involved. And then, of course, cooking demos is a simple and obvious one, where you just show and teach the process of simple cooking, and you really empower kids to understand, what's being put on their plate. So many kids have never had a chance to even really participate in that process in any way, shape, or form. So I think that's yet another powerful way that chefs can be involved. We see chefs engaging in school gardens, taking kids to farmers markets, and also utilizing their own resources. Be it to invite school chefs to their restaurants to sit down and have a conversation and understand how they can be more helpful, have the kids come for a visit. There's a lot of opportunities, but I think the key is to approach this with the humility of knowing that there's a lot about this whole world that we don't understand, that we're here to be supportive because there's incredible progress being made. It's not the chef's responsibility to change everything. It's our responsibility to help support the people who are doing those changes. And I think what we're seeing is just incredible progress and change all across the country. So it's really quite exciting. So I want to thank everybody for their hard work, and I want to remind everybody that this is hard. It is. Schools are hard places to enter. They're complicated. And there's a lot of bureaucracy to navigate, and we have to make sure that we do it in a respectful way. And it's not going to be, we're not going to show up and all of a sudden everything's going to be great and all the kids are going to be running around carrying apples and jumping around. This is something that we have to, I just came from talking to a chef who said he's been working in schools for now 6 years, and it's just this year that he feels like he can really see the difference. So this is something we're in this for the long haul. And we're going to have to work and be patient and be consistent. I think the key is consistency here. If we go once or 3 times in a month and then we don't show up for like 9 months, and then we're going to just show back up again and everything is going to keep going, kids need to see you on a regular basis. So it may not always be you, but your chef de cuisine, your sous chef, other people who are working in your restaurant can also be a part of this effort, so long as they're part of this package. So I think those are some critical points in the way chefs need to approach this, and I look forward to getting some questions.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to thank our panel for covering that much ground that quickly and allowing us the time to have a brief question and answer period here. I'll ask everyone to write your questions on cards and get them up to the front here so we can be systematic and not have much duplication there. I think something that's come up, probably the leading question, is with new nutritional guidelines, kids are seeing stuff they've never seen before. Sam just touched on it. How do you introduce a new veggie? How do you make somebody eat something they haven't tried before? And I'm going to throw this up, and I guess I can start from one side further along down here to Greg, who works so closely with kids. What are some strategies for introducing new foods to kids?
I think from our end at Sharrow Strength, we talk a lot about doing this at a really young age and having fun with the food. Whether it's figuring out we have tools like how do you explore food with kids? Is it making smiley faces and superheroes on plates out of vegetables? Is it having mystery bags where the kids reach into a bag and pull something out and they don't know what it is? And it might be just tasting different vegetables and smelling them. Sometimes it's setting up little individual gardens, even if it's small scale, like put a carrot in the dirt and sort of having them pull it out and sort of see where this comes from. So I think you need to let your teachers in the schools use their imaginations and think of this as a really fun way. It's not just from one perspective, like the art teachers, the music teachers, like everyone can get involved in this.
Chef Jorge, your staff, what are...
Well, we encourage taste testings and giving out samples. Thank you, Sam. We encourage doing sample days, introducing the new vegetable or new item, in a way that's maybe not part of the meal, that could be offered the day before or the week before, that it's going to be on the menu. Sometimes it is challenging, though, I have to say, in terms of introducing, because of the time constraints, and that's one of the realities in working in a school, that can be challenging. But, and also, I think, for us, improving the skills of our frontline workers to communicate better with kids when they come through the line, and to talk to them and have a dialogue. Again, you're dealing with thousands, hundreds of kids at a pop, 20 minutes, 300-400 kids, So, but improving the customer service and the dialogue between those frontline service workers and encouraging kids to try the item, that certainly is one of the strategies. Where it works, we love to be able to do samples like the day before and give kids a preview of what's going to be coming, the next week or tomorrow, something like that. So.
Great.
I think the only thing that I would add, and I sort of touched on it before, but something that we've seen sort of in every aspect of the issue is empowering kids to be involved as actors, not just as recipients of our decisions, but as real actors in the process of making these decisions. And I think there is from moments of we've seen in the First Lady's Garden. I tell this story often, but the short of the version is, young lady had planted 10 years old, planted some cauliflower. She came back to harvest it. We chopped it up. We were just going to do raw vegetables on a plate and with some dips and stuff. And it was actually quite nerve-wracking to think there's all this press and these kids are going to be chomping on raw vegetables. And I was really worried about their reaction. And I turned around and we had put on these sort of family-style platters, and she had taken this plate of cauliflower to the back table and taken about a third of it and was just like stuffing her mouth full of cauliflower. And it's the only time I had asked a kid to put the vegetables back on the plate. But I said, "You like that cauliflower?" And I said, "You like that?" And she said, "Yes." And then she said, "What is it?" Right? She had no idea what it was. Right? Had never tasted it before. Never had any experience with cauliflower before, but because she had been a participant in this, she felt like this was hers. And she was very proud of it and was then totally open to eating it. This was raw cauliflower. With all due respect to cauliflower, it's not my favorite. Cooked is great. Right. So the point is that the point is that any way we can find to get kids to be part of our process, I think we're going to be more effective. And in big districts, that's hard, but little things can go a long, long way. And I think you've seen that. We've seen it all over the country. So anytime that a chef can help facilitate that on behalf of school chefs, it could be incredibly helpful.
I just wanted to add to Sam's point about having kids become self-engaged with food in the cafeteria. And one of the ways that we're seeing that play out very impressively is in salad bars. So thanks to the First Lady's influence, I think, a couple of years ago we were able to, through stimulus money, we were able to add hundreds, initially about 100 salad bars to our schools. Right now we're probably going to be maybe by the end of this year, we'll probably have a salad bar in every school, every building, I should say. That's over 1,200 buildings. But my point is that we took that money and bought salad bars that were not your typical 36-inch high salad bars, but 30-inch high salad bars, where the younger kids could reach and to be self-motivated and, let them have at it, And so a lot of it has to do with, equipment and how it's leveraged, but that was a great addition. And they're choosing themselves, so, and being encouraged by adults in the cafeteria. So salad bars, I think, are a great way to have students just motivate them, be self-motivated to select.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chef. So this may be a Marissa-driven question. How can state educational agencies support Chef's Move to Schools?
Sure. One of the things that the First Lady is always saying is that everybody has a role to play in this initiative and in combating childhood obesity. And I think that Chef's Move to Schools creates an incredible opportunity for that. State education agencies and local education agencies know the ins and outs of student populations so well. They know who they're serving. They know the families. They know the parents who are involved. They know the community, and that's something that's extremely valuable for school cafeterias to take into account when we're serving kids. The school district that I served when I ran a high school cafeteria was incredibly diverse, and it was so exciting to get to know both our state education leaders, our local education leaders, and the families who were involved at all levels, wanting to get involved with how their kids were being taught at school, and then eventually get involved with how their kids are being fed. And so I think the first suggestion that I would make is to encourage leadership to own the fact that the cafeteria is also a teaching environment. And when your educators start to understand that this is an opportunity to teach kids about nutrition, to Sam's example earlier, that this environment can reinforce the things they're learning in the classroom and vice versa, then you create a whole new realm of opportunity for instilling hard academic core values and core skills in kids through the cafeteria, but also using the cafeteria as a space to teach skills and subject matter that may not be touched in the classroom, like nutrition and the importance of living an active lifestyle, of getting involved in new foods, and making healthy choices for yourself as a kid. So when we started to see this shift across school districts, when we would pull in teachers to the cafeteria to have lunch with kids, when we pulled in our principals to come in and sit down and have breakfast, right, and to see the huge disparity between kids who eat breakfast and kids who eat lunch, when we pulled them in over the summer, much to their chagrin, to have lunch with kids, they started to see this is another teachable moment. And I don't care where you are in the education system, if you're an educator, you have a huge belief in a teachable moment, right? And so I think that when we start to get those ties woven into this program and we start to reach out and build those partnerships, then people automatically see I absolutely have a role here.
Great. Here's a question fielded from the internet. Where can I find resources with recipes or sample week-long menus that actually meet the new nutritional guidelines? Are there any resources for those menus?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to USDA's website and you click on the school nutrition areas, there's all kinds of different menus, sample menus that schools are implementing all over the country, and can really, help you understand really what's happening. I will say though, I want to reinforce. It's not. I think leave that level of expertise, and knowledge and responsibility into the hands of those people whose job it is. It's good to have an understanding to really know what's being asked of schools and have a better understanding about how you can help. But it's, these are complicated things, and I think asking, nutrition director, okay, how do I help fit into the work you're ongoing is going to be your best approach, as opposed to saying, okay, I understand what this is supposed to be. And, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I think that something we also need to consider is that so much of what's going on in schools with chefs is going to be happening in enrichment programs and in opportunities to interact with kids in classrooms. The cafeteria, as we've established, is a very complicated place and a longer investment. A question that we fielded is directed towards that. As a chef, how do you get started? Are there funding strategies for this, or does an individual have to pay to be involved? What's the best way to go about it for somebody who's ready to step in?
Well, from my perspective as a chef, I would say this isn't about money. The first step is getting in there having a meeting with people at the school, at the district level, but even having activities in the class. We're not talking about big budget items. This is about taking some time out of your day, your week, your month, and engaging on it can be a really simple level. Taste testing kids on food and figuring out some fun activities. These aren't items that are going to cost hundreds of dollars. We know as you might have school year long programs, that's possible, but I would always say start small, think easy activities that you don't need funding first for. That first what you need to do is just have the excitement and the wherewithal to sort of get out there and try something.
Only to add to that, there are resources available. There are some small grants that are available that you can start to access from the Chef Moves to Schools website to help supplement, small food costs, transportation costs, and the like. But I agree with Greg there. This should not cost a lot of money. That's not the idea. And this is about dedicating and volunteering our time on behalf of our nation's kids, really servicing them, in that collaboration. So, but there are some resources for those chefs who don't have big restaurants that they can draw on to help them get involved.
Is it on? Okay. One of the resources I would mention to add to Sam's point is, I mentioned it earlier, the Healthier U.S. Schools Challenge Awards Program. This is such a unique opportunity, but it's an awards program, and true to its name, it does give financial awards to schools who achieve a certain level of healthiness for their school environment. Chefs are integral partners for this, and one of the cool parts about the program is that the framework of it is to encourage partnerships at the local level. So you bring in your students, you bring in your PTA, your principal, your faculty members, your volunteer chef, anybody who wants to take a leadership role and build that collaborative effort on campus can make moves to change the school environment, improve the healthiness of both of nutrition at a range of options, and then bring in financial awards for the school. It's pretty exciting, so I would encourage people to go to usda.gov to find out more information.
I just wanted to reiterate we keep coming back to the same point about staying in touch with the central, the people in charge of the district or whoever it is, because invariably they're going to have inventory that they're going to certainly want to make available to you, that you can use chefs can use for, educational demonstrations with kids. Now with the new standards, they're going to have whole grain products. They're going to have, dark green. They're going to have, products that offer the kinds of foods that, happily are meeting the new standards. So just by going to the people that are in charge of the programs, I'm sure I can't imagine anyone not saying, sure, here, use some of our inventory. And you really want to do that because what you're doing there is you're not bringing food that is from the outside that may not be available to a school and a school district's budget. So and then the kids get used to samples or whatever you're demonstrating to them. They're going to see it on the line. It's not something foreign to them that a chef may be bringing from a restaurant. Mm-hmm. You're actually reinforcing the same items that appear on the school's menu. So it's it's just an easy way. There's no cost really associated with that, I don't think.
That's great. Thanks, Chef. This is another question fielded from the internet from an individual who is working with the ACF right now for chefs for programming that they have that they're interested in implementing in schools. Outside of working with the ACF, what's a good way to locate chefs if you're a school in search of chef?
I think obviously the first way if they want to sign up onto the website and sort of look, and it'll show on the mapping tool. There's a mapping tool, so you really need to sign up to get access on Chefs Move to School, and from that you can sort of look at a mapping tool that will show the chefs who have signed up in your area. I think if you look on the Chefs Move to School webpage and all the collaborative partners, a lot of them have access in different areas to chefs across the country. I know for one, Cooking Matters, we have lead partners in 35 communities across the country who can be helping to reach out to chefs, and I think the ACF has a huge network of obviously through their chefs and finding schools at the same time. So I think you need to use the resources we have and then sort of, push the envelope a little bit and sort of reach out through your networks that you might have outside of the restaurants in the community.
Thank you. And got another one here. I think we've got a couple of panelists who will take this on. There's a perception that cafeterias don't want chefs to come in. And why is that?
You want to go first?
I'll take this hot button question.
I always have something to say.
I think there is this perception is there at times in some schools, some districts, and I think it largely comes from some legacy, a legacy of some chefs walking into schools in a way that didn't carry the right respect and the right attitude as coming in, and I think there's been a lot of sort of negativity that has been over the last number of years pointed towards school districts and schools, and I think it's put some schools and some school chefs in a position. Well, that's not reflective of who I am and what I'm doing, and therefore that's the kind of negativity. Then it doesn't have much of a place in my cafeteria, which is why I think you hear so much of the sentiment and tone coming to be very positive and very supportive, because there is so much positive movement happening, and there is so much activity that the way that we as chefs walk into a school is going to be the difference between success and failure. And I think we can certainly, that perception is being overcome. You see districts everywhere opening their doors to chefs. You see partnerships all over the country that are making a real difference, and schools are benefiting, and school chefs are benefiting from simple things, even like improved knife skills. There's not nearly enough training for school chefs. So these things are happening, and I think as we see those successes, that perception is dissolving. But I think it's a new day for all of that.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Did I sum that up?
Yeah, you got it. You got it, Chef. Again, I think there was some unfortunate early on, some chefs that have, international stature, perhaps that have helicoptered in, and sought to save the day. So unfortunately, that we can counteract that, and like Chef said, I think it's a new day, and we can move forward from that. I think that's something that's in the past. So
I think we have touched on strategies to get into schools through school districts and through chefs like yourself, Chef Jorge. A question that came through that I hadn't thought of really before is, when a school district outsources its foods, what are the strategy for approaching a large food service company as opposed to kitchens run through the Department of Education? Are there different approaches? I'm not sure where this lands.
It obviously depends on what food service company you're talking about, but a number of these companies are really open to forging these partnerships, are definitely helping to drive some positive changes here. And I think it starts with you contact the nutrition director in the same way, and because and even in these districts there's a school nutrition director as well, and see about how best to work together. There may be less opportunity in the cafeteria in those settings, but a lot of these companies have been very supportive for the Healthier U.S. School Challenge, for example, and have helped really champion that inside the schools themselves. So like we've said, every school is going to be different. So how that relationship and dynamic will play out is going to vary. But I think the process is still the same, is that you start with the nutrition director. You can say, well, I would love to sit down with the representative of the country of the company for this region, and let's see how we can best work together, and where are the opportunities that they can be most impactful. There may be different barriers there, but I think that this is going to be about being very proactive, because everybody's going to be busy. You're going to have to be diligent about saying, no, we really need to sit down. I'd love to explore and learn more about what's happening here. Gotcha.
So here's another that I hadn't considered. how do food trends, like gluten-free or low-carb, impact nutritional standards? Is there any reflection of this in, okay, there's the short answer to that question.
Let's be, we won't just shake our heads.
Yeah.
I think this isn't about trends, but it is about science, and utilizing the best available science we have to make sure that our kids are getting the proper nutrition. And while we're seeing more specific needs, particularly around allergies, and I know this is something that you got to deal with every day, and I don't envy you for that. It's challenging, but so these are becoming increasingly an issue for schools and anybody preparing food. I wouldn't call that a trend, but I'd call that emerging issues. The trends, there's trends that say you should only eat grapes, and then you should only eat broccoli. It's like we can't worry about those trends, but we are very committed to following the most up-to-date science to guide our decisions in cafeterias.
That leads me to, well, pardon me.
Oh, I would
Please,
just
Marcia.
add that so many school cafeteria managers and nutrition directors take the federal nutrition guidelines and as a starting point, right? And so again, if you know your community and you know your student population and you know which family, because that mom lives down the street from you, has 2 kids and they both have 2 allergies, then you're going to care. And it's a natural rapport that gets built from behind the counter to the cafeteria. And when you know your kids, which most cafeteria managers do, then you know what to serve them and what not to serve them. And you make accommodations because in the end, as the First Lady said, is we all believe like food is love. And this is how you're communicating care for people that you're serving. And so while the nutrition standards are certainly standards that we're all still here.
It is a cooking school. Things happen.
Standards at one point it certainly does get taken into so many arenas one step further to better accommodate the kids that you're serving.
I just wanted to add that, there are accommodations that, can be made in schools. And, it just has to be documented and, students' accommodations for certain, food allergies can be addressed. So, I think those avenues exist.
Okay. Proving that there is someone out there listening. Briefly, we mentioned the Resources Toolkit. And what types of materials are available in the Resources Toolkit?
So once you sign up for Chefs Move to School, there's resources available for classroom-based work related to nutrition, related to physical activity. There's things related to gardening. And it just really, we've only picked 3. Like as people ask to have the resources put up on that site, we add more. So we're trying to be a clearinghouse to really get lots of great materials out to you. My organization might have a lot of great materials that suit some people, but there's other organizations that have other amazing materials. So we've tried to give a great range from school gardens, nutritional work, young, 0 to 5 age, 6 to 12, like different age groups, different areas, different ideas.
Yeah, and I would just emphasize that so much of that information is given from chefs who are doing this work. So it's coming from people on the ground who are excited about the success that they're seeing and submitting it up to Chefs Move to Schools to say somebody else can use this too. And it's a really amazing collection of materials that we've got online for you.
And this is, I think, specifically a Chefs Move to Schools question. One just came in that is also specifically that I think trumps this. Is Chefs Moves to School a government program? How is it actually balanced now between, and I'm not sure if Marissa or Sam.
I'll take that. This is a collaboration. This is something that, the USDA had a small program on this for a while, and there's been some big partners who this has been a really important issue, who have stepped up on their own accord to really try to take this notion to a bigger level. So this is an independent group of leaders, Share Strength, ACF, all these, a long list, 12 partners who are working together, and obviously we work closely with them because of the mission that they're doing. But so there's a collaboration here, but these are non-government partners who are coming together on behalf of kids. which is exactly what we're hoping to see across the country on a broad array of issues. I mean, the First Lady says many times that most of the answers to these challenges aren't going to come from Washington. They're going to come from leaders, community members, parents, and teachers from all over the country who are going to really, in the end, hold the solutions to our challenges. So this is it's a great moment, and a great example of that.
Fantastic. So with that, I think we're going to have to end the question and answer portion of our presentation this evening. And Marissa is going to wrap things up for us here just with a couple of remarks on your next steps if you have been attending the webinar or in here in person tonight.
This is great. So this is literally your 1 through 6 steps for what to do. www.chefsmoveToSchools.org. Sign up, participate. You'll get access to the map. You'll get access to our Getting Started, our discussion forums, our resource pages, and most importantly, step 4 and step 5, you'll be able to contact a school administrator or a chef, depending on who you are, to create a partnership. Record your match, tell us about it, tell us that you're working with each other, and then continue to build on that success by creating your own resources, taking advantage of ours, joining the community of people who are doing this across the country. So again, that's chefsmoveToSchools.org. And just the last couple of things, I would be remiss to not thank the gracious International Culinary Center again for hosting us today, the people who are involved in this on a day in, day out basis. There are 2 individuals that I really want to embarrass and say thank you to. One is here with us, Jessica Ward, and the other is not in person, but I hope she's online, Jen Louie. I see these women work day in, day out, every single day to make this a success, along with Greg, Sam, and so many of the folks that are joining us online from afar. But it's an incredible partnership, and Sam couldn't be more accurate in saying what an amazing moment that it is to see this coalition come together. So thank you all for being here. Thank you if you were here in person. This has been a pleasure. Online, we're so appreciative of your time today. We hope this has been helpful and that it continues a long tradition of a conversation that goes forward between schools and chefs.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank our panelists very quickly and give them a moment just for last remarks. Chef Jorge, if you have.
Oh, yeah. I think we're at a historic moment in, with school meals, and all of this is kind of dovetailing together. It's just amazing, and and the new standards are fantastic. I did want to just say that what I'd like to see us maybe do is to engage with food industry on a higher level, and to bring them into the fold. I deal with food manufacturers every day, large, small, medium, some of them local, some of them in the Midwest, everywhere. And, I think they realize that, we're not turning back, and the business opportunities that exist are before us, and that they are incredibly motivated. For whatever reason, they're motivated, and they hold a lot of the solutions. So I think bringing them into the conversation and the dialogue, engaging them in a way that teaches them, because they need us to teach them about what needs to be done. So I think that's just incredibly important for us to start doing.
Thank you. And Chef Sam?
Just to wrap, I think it's clear that it's going to take every piece of this puzzle to come together on these issues, and I think we're seeing incredible progress made throughout the industry. Obviously, there's a lot more work to do, and together, I think we really are going to solve these challenges. So I just want to thank everybody for their time and their energy and their dedication to our kids, and we look forward to doing many more of these in the future, and get more and more in the weeds to give as many tools and resources to folks out there to be impactful as we can. So thank you for having us, and thank you all very much.
I would just like to say, as we're today thinking about some of the ways you're working in the schools and in the cafeterias and in the classrooms, send us that information to Chefs Move to Schools. Send it through our Facebook page. Send it through, at Chefs to Schools, which is our Twitter, and Chefs Move to School as the Facebook page. Give us your stories and your ideas and what's happening, and we're going to promote those. We want to get those out because this is a movement, and we need to get lots of people involved. So we need to hear from you in order to get your ideas put into play. So we're excited to hear more and more from everybody.
Thank you so much.
And Marissa had the first round of thank yous, so I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us online, and have a wonderful day.